Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, to Book Review. In the previous episodes, we covered a variety of different books in different areas. We talked about nurturing Iman in your children, psychology in Islam, and riba, usury, or interest. Today, I thought about having something different. Today, we have a novel. It's called Between Two Worlds. The author of this novel is a very special person, special to me, myself, and I'm sure he's special to all you guys. He is very well known here at Huda TV. He's known for his very interesting programs. Let's Talk, Viewers Pulse, and the Ummah Tonight. I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm proud to have with me today Brother Malik Evangelatos. Brother Malik, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Wallahi, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your program, Brother Muhammad.
Brother Malik, Between Two Worlds. Why did you choose this title?
Wallahi, brother, Between Two Worlds, I feel like I'm between two worlds in many ways. From living in the United States, from living in the Middle East, from being Muslim, and by being Greek American. All these things that somehow made me feel like I was between two worlds.
But when I first read the title, I felt that Between Two Worlds is like the dunya and the akhirah.
As well. And
Yeah.
I also think of this too, because now as a Muslim...
But when I read the book, it was different.
Right. Well, you know, also as Muslims, we have this feeling as well. But definitely the book gives this feeling of somebody who, you know, a kind of a cultural... after accepting Islam.
It's fiction, right?
It's fiction, but I say it's a blend of non-fiction because it's my first novel, and I drew heavily on my personal experiences.
It's your first novel.
Yes.
So it's fiction that is describing your personal story.
You know, a lot of it is from my personal experiences, and a lot of the characters I built from personal acquaintances and old friends and current friends. So that part is true. However, a lot of it is not exactly my story, although it's very similar.
Okay. So why literature? Why didn't you write about Islamic studies or something else, or medicine or something?
Barakallahu Feek, thank you for that question, because I say, and Allah knows best, that this ummah is in need of specialists in every single field. And I feel we have a lot of...
You actually studied literature.
Yeah, I graduated, by the grace of Allah, I graduated from UCLA with this English literature and world literature degree. I believe that the Muslim world is suffering from a lack of poets and literature majors. And I hope that, I like reading and writing.
So you're going to serve the ummah in your specialty,
yes.
in literature.
Yes.
And what about programs?
Inshallah as well, but I say, and Allah knows best, a lot of the great figures in this ummah were poets and were very eloquent speakers. We know Hassan ibn Thabit was the poet of the Prophet. Imam Shafi, may Allah have mercy on him, was a great poet as well, and master of the Arabic language, as were many great Islamic scholars. So I think it's important to get in this field as well and serve the ummah, inshallah.
Inshallah. May Allah reward you for this.
Thank you,
I wanted to ask you about the characters in the novel. Tell us about the characters.
Okay, well, like I said, because it's my first novel, I did draw heavily on personal people in my life, old friends, etc. First of all, I have major characters and minor characters.
Okay.
What we call, round characters, which are characters that have a lot of you go in detail about them, and they serve a purpose in the book. And then you have smaller characters that kind of just lead you through the plot points.
So
okay?
who are the main characters?
The main characters are Gordon, who's a bad influence. Well, first of all, let me start with the protagonist, who is George Evangelatos.
Okay.
So why did I choose George? Because
George Evangelatos.
Right, just like me. Why? Because first of all, I wanted, being Greek American, I wanted to put a Greek twist on this novel. And George is a very common Greek name. Okay. And Evangelatos is a very common Greek name from the island that my father comes from. So I have some sort of sense of pride of this island. So I kind of, in a positive way. So I wanted to kind of show that. So George Evangelatos is a Greek American kid and this is the story revolves around him. George Evangelatos. He's the protagonist.
Okay. So George is the story, the main character in the story.
Yes.
And the other characters?
Okay, for example, we have Panayoti, his first cousin, which is a Greek name which means roughly Peter. This man plays a significant role in his life.
Peter Evangelatos as well?
Well, it means, Panayoti is like a name, it means Peter somehow in the Greek language, right. I actually do have a first cousin named Panayoti as well, and I use his personality to kind of make this character.
Interesting.
This character is very, very important because it sets the pace of the novel. This Greek man, Panayoti, introduces Islam to George and begins him thinking about Islam and about spirituality and about who the creator is. He takes him through northern Greece and shows him the Islamic and Ottoman history of Greece, which shows the positive heritage that Islam has left on Europe, and I think it's a very beautiful thing. And I use.
Beautiful.
Go ahead.
Can we say that this story is your own story?
It's very close to my own story because I did draw heavily on my own story, but I have to say it's not entirely my own story.
Okay.
Like, for example, in the story, Panayoti becomes Muslim, and he introduces Islam to George. In my personal life, I do have a cousin named Panayoti, but he did not introduce Islam to me, and I pray for him and make dua that he does become Muslim one day, but he definitely is not Muslim.
We hope that for him.
Oh, thank you,
okay, Between Two Worlds.
Yeah.
The title is very interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that title. I want you to tell us why did you choose the title Between Two Worlds? And
Yeah.
you said at the start it's a story of self-discovery
Right.
and adventure that
Right.
takes the reader through two different worlds,
Yes.
into continents, to different worlds.
Yes.
So tell us more about that.
Yes, because this story, I really want to show, I want to draw, look, this book is, at the end, it's fi sabilillah, it's for dawah.
Yeah.
And I want to draw people in. So how do you do that, brother? I thought about this. I want to make a classic story. One of my favorite books was The Catcher in the Rye. Okay, this was
The Catcher and the Rye.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we read that in high school back in the States. It was a story about a teenager kind of coming of age, messing around, traveling, doing all sorts of bad stuff. But in the end, he kind of, he grows up, he matures.
Okay.
I wanted this to be like that, a timeless novel that youth and adults, something for everybody. I wanted to include something for everybody. So I made this Between Two Worlds. I want to show the reader, take the reader through two worlds, the Western world and the world of Islam. And take them through the Middle East vicariously, so it becomes a novel of a setting, location, travel, and scenery as well. I want to hook the people in different ways. In the end, give them the message of Islam.
Okay, so it's a book of converting or telling the people more about Islam.
Yes, in a subtle way.
Okay, I wanted to ask here at this point a very important question that might come into a lot of our viewers' minds. Why did you write the novel and describe in it Greece a lot? You talked about Greece a lot in this.
Yeah.
It seems like you're very attached to your homeland.
Yes.
And my question is, you're living in the States.
Right.
How come Greece comes into
So
you so much? And
Yeah.
you lived, I think, most of your life in the States.
Yeah. So basically, I was born and raised in the States. My father and mother are both Greek, okay? So once I accepted Islam in my personal life,
I mean, how are you so attached to Greece when you're an American?
Yeah, yeah.
You were living in America. I think the American culture invades all other cultures.
Yeah,
So
right.
how come you're so attached to Greece?
yeah, I will
That's
tell you
very,
now. Yes, good question, bro. I'm glad
important.
you asked me this question, because when I accepted Islam, as being American and my parents being from Greece, I never questioned my identity as being American and being Greek. But after I accepted Islam, I felt, unfortunately, the Greek community in some ways had pushed me away and tried to take away my Greek identity. My identity as being Greek, because I still am Greek. So I want to show them that you can be Greek and Muslim, or American and Muslim. And Islam has had a positive role in the history of Greece and America and the entire world.
Okay.
So that's why I really want to pound this down and make this clear. Islam is a beautiful thing that benefits all people, regardless of your Greek, Italian, Egyptian, or Chinese, for that matter.
But brother, I just wanted to emphasize on a point. Like a lot of American Muslims over there in America that are brought up in America, they have a broken culture with regards to the American culture. How come you're Greece and you weren't invaded by this culture, and you're so attached through your writing, through this novel? I felt that you're so attached to Greece, although you lived all your life in America.
Excellent point.
That's a very important point that I want you to share with our viewers, because it helps a lot of the Muslims in America to bring up their children right.
I'm very happy that you asked me that question, Brother Muhammad, and I'll tell you why. Because, brother, after I became Muslim, I felt like the Greek community, unfortunately, tried to strip me of my Greek identity. I always loved Greece. However, after I became Muslim, I began to love Greece even more, because I appreciated the beautiful things that Greece has to offer. Instead of treating it just like a nightclub that Greek American kids do, as somewhere to go for a summer vacation and to party, I saw the beauty of this country and the beautiful things in fact, Islam beautifies everything. So I love Greece even more, and I want to show them, because I love them, the beauty of Islam. Although they are very stubborn about it, I would really like to help in this regard.
Interesting. In the novel, you mentioned about the summer senior vacation.
Right.
Okay. So tell us more. Expand on that a little bit to describe more the novel.
Okay, so the novel begins really. Look, the senior year of high school, everybody knows, is like the fun year where all the kids, they do all the stuff that those kids do. Okay. He's a typical American non-Muslim kid.
Okay.
After the summer, he goes to Greece for a summer vacation where he expects to do more
He's
of the
in America, and then he moves to Greece in the summer vacation.
Yeah, his father and mother send him to Greece. They look, go to the summer, visit your cousins, as most Greek American kids do. Go on the beach, have fun, do all this stuff. You know, that's what they do. So this, he was expecting more of the same until he comes across Panayoti and his cousin, who was previously doing all those things, going to the parties, going to the beach. But
What did Pariyoti do to him?
Panayoti changed. He sees a different man. He sees a more mature man, a calm man, a more respectable human being, a decent human being.
That's in George.
Yeah, George sees Panayoti. George,
Okay.
when he goes to Greece, he sees his first cousin, expecting to be smoking cigarettes and playing dice games.
He doesn't find them like that.
He doesn't find him in the coffee shops wasting time. He finds him all of a sudden respectable, decent, thoughtful, introspective. And instead of taking him to nightclubs and beaches to chase around the girls,
He didn't do that.
He takes him where? To historical sites in Greece. But what kind of historical sites? Islamic heritage sites, which is amazing.
Islamic heritage sites in Greece.
Right, and I didn't know anything about the...
But Pariyoti is not a Muslim.
Panayoti is not a Muslim, so this is kind of begins to introduce. This is why I want to introduce.
This is the point where George starts to know about Islam.
Right, and I want the reader to have. Also, I want, in a subtle way, the reader who's not expecting me to give them dawah. I want them to say, "Wow, look at the Ottoman Islamic heritage of Greece." It's. I want them to read about Islam in a positive way.
So you're talking about history as well. In the
Yes,
novel.
and I rely heavily on Dr. Steph Carey's book, The Europe.
So it's fiction, history, and Islam.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you,
that's
brother.
very interesting.
Thank you, and I really worked hard to make this blend. I relied heavily on Dr. Steph Carey's book, the Historical Guide to Ottoman Greece, Europe's Forgotten Heritage, because he documents all these beautiful old castles and mosques and Islamic libraries that are present there in Greece.
Okay, brother. Tell us more about Ted Mason.
Okay, well, this brother, Mr. Mason, in my life as a student at UCLA as an undergrad,
Like, what's the link between Ted and George and Pariyoti?
everybody, yeah. So, first of all, I took Ted, Mr. Mason from my own life. I met in Los Angeles as an undergraduate. I met an African American man who was part of the Masons, which is an organization, like a group.
So Mason is back in America.
Yes, he's in Los Angeles. This is when George returns to Greece.
Okay.
Okay.
After the vacation.
After he returns to America, right? And he bumps into this man, and he begins a friendship with this man.
Okay.
And this man begins talking.
That's when he enters after his vacation, and he's actually going to college now. So he meets Mason. Right?
Yes, right,
Okay.
yes. He meets.
And in the
Mason.
vacation, he met Pariyoti.
Right,
Okay.
right. So, thank you for clarifying that, brother. I jump around the plot line because I wrote
It's
the
all right,
book. I
it's
forget the
all
readers
right.
may not know, right? So
That's what I'm here for.
Thank you, brother. So in real life, I met a man, an African American Mason man.
Okay.
Okay, he was part of this organization. So he told me the good things he said that they have to offer, and he said something I always remember. He said, African Americans, they only reach a certain level because of the structure of the organization. And I always thought about that in my personal life. I said, I want to be a part of a group.
African American, they only reach a certain
level.
What did he mean by that?
Because they have some sort of system, racism. So I always thought to myself from that point, I said, you know what? In my personal life, when I was not Muslim, I said, I want to find an
But
organization.
that idea isn't it? Like, I think that after Obama became a president, that things
Well,
changed.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I just heard this from that man. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So I always remembered this, and I always said to myself, I want to find a religion or organization that is pure for the sake of God and is totally equal for all people. So Panayoti goes back to college, and I use this man to create a character, Mr. Mason. And I just use him. Mr. Mason talks about masonry with George and encourages to visit his place of worship, where George goes to there. He sees what they have to offer, and he thinks, okay, I don't want to be a part of that group. But now he begins seriously searching again. There must be a creator. People believe in a creator. Where is he? I want to know who my Lord is.
And then he goes back to America.
Then,
After that point.
yeah,
Right.
then what he does is he remembers Panayoti. He had forgotten about him. He remembers the books Panayoti gave him. He remembers the change that Panayoti had in his life, where he was a Greek kid going to parties, all of a sudden to a respectable, mature young adult.
Okay.
And he remembers the gifts, the books that Panayoti gave him, which included the translation of the Holy Quran, Hassan, the Fortress of the Muslim, as well as the Prophet's Prayer by Sheikh Muhammad Nasruddin al-Albani, may Allah have mercy on him. And why did I choose him, brother? I chose him, by the way, because, as you know, Sheikh Albani is originally from Albania, and I wanted to show the diversity and colorfulness of Islam.
But it's kind of weird how Pariyoti gives him these books and he's not a Muslim even.
No, what happens in the novel actually is Panayoti, it appears that...
Or that's part of the fiction.
Right, what
in the
happens
novel.
what happens is Panayoti takes George through Greece on a vacation, showing him the historical sites. And then a day before or so before he leaves for America...
Brother Malik, let's talk about this vacation after the break, because we have to take a short break right now.
Inshallah.
Brothers and sisters, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. So stay tuned to this very interesting book after the break. Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters. This is Book Review. We're talking about Between Two Worlds with Brother Malik Ibn Glatus. He's the author, actually, and he's the guest today. Welcome back, Brother Malik.
Barakallahu feek. Thank you so much for having me on the
Brother
program.
Malik, we stopped at the vacation.
Yes.
Okay, let's start from here.
Okay, let's do it. So at the end of the vacation, they're sitting in northern Greece, in the mountains of northern Greece, in a small cabin with a wood fire burning, drinking chocolate, hot chocolate and coffee, this sort of thing.
Okay.
And at this point, George is ready to go back home to America and say goodbye to his cousin in Greece. Okay.
And he's taking all the books.
And what happened? Panayoti says, I have something to tell you. I accepted Islam, I became Muslim. And this is a dramatic experience.
Oh my God.
He takes
Coyote accepted Islam at this point.
And he says, I'm Muslim.
Okay.
And I feel scared and really, if you can believe, to really openly practice my religion here. And you're an American, you have all the freedom, and you didn't make a decision in your life what you want to do. And he gives him a translation of the Holy Quran. He gives him the small book of supplications called Fortress of Muslim, as well as the Prophet's Prayer by Sheikh Muhammad.
But I thought from what we were talking about before the break that Coyote was not a Muslim.
What I mentioned was Panayoti, my real
was
life.
not a Muslim in your real life.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. In my real life, I do have a first cousin.
Okay.
In Panayoti who's not Muslim. And may Allah guide
But
him
in
to
this story, you made him a Muslim.
Yeah, that's why I said it's
that's
fiction.
the fiction.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's fiction,
Yeah,
but
exactly,
non-fiction, right?
exactly.
So I made him a Muslim in order to get the plot line going.
Mashallah, you did a great job.
But I wanted to thank you so much. But I want to tell you, this was like a really important turning point in George's life, because he sees this man is really serious about life, and he found who his Lord is, and he is confident in that. And then George wants to do the same.
Brother, you talked about the relationship between Greece and the Ottoman Empire and the Turks. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, brother. Look, the problem with the Greeks is that the problem they are facing, the obstacle they are facing with accepting Islam or even being fair-minded towards Islam is because they've been taught for many, many years that the 500 years that the Ottomans dominated Greece,
The Muslims.
the Muslim exactly, the Muslim dominated Greece,
Okay.
that these were the Dark Ages and they treated them very badly. When in fact the opposite is true. Until this very day, now you can find material in the Greek language that treats the Ottomans, the Islam, and Muslims in a positive way, in a fair way. But the Greeks have this kind of negative misconceptions about Islam because they've been taught this for many, many years. And I want them to realize, look, let's be open-minded, you guys, and let's give everybody a fair and honest appraisal, and maybe you will benefit from it.
But they don't do that.
Unfortunately, you know what? I don't really blame them because they've been raised that way, many of them.
Okay.
But I hope the new generation changes. I hope I can play a part in that. And I certainly
I hope you can do, brother.
Yeah, inshallah, I hope this book, really affects them in a positive way. And I want them to say, look, if the Ottomans or Muslims did something positive, let's acknowledge that. And if they didn't, then we can be critical of that, but be fair, inshallah.
Jazakallahu khairan.
Wajak.
Yeah, I want you to tell me more about a very important point, which is the point where you started talking about George moving to the Muslim world.
Yeah, so what happens is George is living in San Francisco, which is a city where I lived in for some time.
Okay.
A beautiful city, which I love very much. The landscape, that is, the city itself is very beautiful. So I want to take you through the neighborhoods of San Francisco. This is another way I get people into the novel.
Okay.
Novel
You started talking about San Francisco and how a beautiful city it is.
Right.
Okay. Then let's move to when George moves to the Muslim world and he describes his experience there.
Right. So what George does is he performs Umrah.
Okay.
He visits Medina and Mecca, and I want to take.
That's after he becomes Muslim.
Right. Okay. So I want the reader to vicariously experience. If they're not Muslim, they've never been.
Things start from the summer vacation, then he moves back to America, then he becomes Muslim, then he starts looking for the Muslim world.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. So now I want to take the reader to Medina and Mecca and let them feel it, because especially if they're not Muslim, let them feel it and be there vicariously. So I take them to Mecca, Medina as best I can. By the grace of Allah, I did perform Umrah once, and by the grace of Allah, I did perform Hajj last year. So I was able to do that. So then also, I take them to Cairo, where I live now, and I really, really wanted to take the reader from the Golden Gate Bridge.
There are a lot of description of the cities, San Francisco, Cairo, and Mecca.
Right. I want people to feel it. I want to get people to read this book, and I want to hook them in from many, many different angles. So I want to make it a travel novel too.
So you did a great job.
Right. So I want to take them to Cairo and Giza and the pyramids and see it as a travel novel. Northern Greece, San Francisco, Mecca, Medina. I want to take them through as many places as I can to make it interesting and let it be beneficial for many aspects, and to get many people to read the book. And in the end, after they read the book, I give them the message of Islam.
When you were talking about Mecca, I felt very emotional. Like you were talking very emotionally about Mecca and the streets and your experience there. Expand on this a little bit.
Brother, thank you so much. I'll tell you something. Personally, when I performed Umrah and I prayed in Mecca and Medina, when I really, really, really saw the diversity of people there, and I realized at one point I remember this day because it was my birthday. Although I don't celebrate birthdays, I remember it because of that.
Okay.
I remember praying in the Prophet's mosque, peace be upon him, and I remember the people around me. People move in groups according to where they come from most of the time. I remember praying Maghrib, and it was It was it was a beautiful feeling. And I remember all the people around me were Turkish, and I thought to myself, Subhanallah, how did I end up here in the Prophet's city?
Subhanallah.
And,
And next to these Turks.
And next to these Turks, and beforehand, I always thought to myself, oh, these are bad people. Although my parents were fair, they never taught me Turks were bad, but I had this kind of idea from the Greek collective psyche. So I said, these people, look at them, we're now brothers. And what united us? Not any nationalism or anything like that, but our belief in Allah. So this was a really, really beautiful time for me.
Yeah.
And I began to cry. And
Can we say that George is Malik?
Okay, we could say George is Malik.
Okay.
But George is basically Malik, but I had to adjust some things in the plot line in order to make a nice story, to make it enjoyable and entertaining. So we could say George is.
It is like that.
Thank you, brother, so much. Wallahi, may Allah accept it from us.
Inshallah.
And I certainly hope it's beneficial.
I wanted to ask you before, as a closing, this novel is your first novel. Are you planning to write another novel?
Thank you so much, brother. I thought of something really just purely.
Or are you writing right now? You want to tell us?
Right, I'm
be
actually
exclusive for our show.
Brother, I started writing a second novel called The Sultan's Secret, and
you're working on that right now.
Right, and I wanted to make it like
the Sultan's
Secret.
The Sultan's Secret.
Right, and it's based around discovering the lost gospel of Barnabas. And I'll tell you something, I wanted to make it, brother, like the Muslim Da Vinci Code. You remember the Da Vinci Code?
Yeah.
How it was this huge, massive hit. I want to help create a genre of literature that shows Islam in a positive way. And so it's historical, beneficial, and also so look out for that. I was also looking at doing some other things. But right now, let's talk about the Sultan's Secret, inshallah. In the future, inshallah.
We will talk about it in the future, definitely. Brother Malik, I would like to thank you at the end of this episode. Thank you for this very interesting review. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, brother. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you, dear brothers and sisters, for watching this very interesting episode of Book Review. Till the next episode, we leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.